Dear students, I summarize this part of revision for you to emphasize the most important information regarding chapter 6, 7, and 8 from our textbook, so that may help you to answer the online exam questions. So I wish you all the best and good luck.
This chapter discusses the basic technologies used in networking and the internet. We will handle this topic from different perspectives. First, we will explain the basics and the main concepts regarding networking technology. Then we will discuss the main telecommunications transmission media used by networks and the type of networks. The third topic deals with the global internet and how internet and internet technologies work and how they support firms and especially in the area of e-business. The fourth topic handles the area of wireless networking and how it supports mobility in organization. And finally, we will explain how RFID technology supports firms today and support firms by using wireless sensor networks and which role IoT plays in this context. IoT is the short term for Internet of Things. Coming now to the fundamental question, what is a computer network? A computer network is simply two or more computers are connected to each other. As you can see here, a list of all basic components involved in a simple network. We will start first with the client computer, the term of client computer. A client computer is normally an average normal computer that for sure you have seen in firm before. And many workplaces are equipped with client computers. A client computer has the function to support employees to accomplish their day-to-day tasks, and it sends requests over the internet to another computer. That's why we call it a client computer. A server computer, in contrast, it is a powerful computer and hosted normally in a data center in an organization. It received requests from client computers and served them with responses. That's why we call it server computer. Very important computer server in a network is operating system server, network operating system server, which manage the network functions and coordinate the network activities. Network interfaces devices, they are attached to computers and allows computer to get into the internet. Hub and switches are central devices that connect all computer and forward data streams as packets from network member to another. Switches are more intelligent than hubs, since switches can filter data packets to the exact target computer. But hubs forwards the received packets to all other members in the network. I think for sure that every one of you has its own router at home with which you can get into the internet. It is a connection device that connects a firm to internet and another networks. This slide shows additional components one might expect to find in the network of a large company that has many locations and thousands of employees. Note that many firms are connected by traditional landline telephone networks and using internet telephones that run on existing internal networks and the Internet. Firm-wide corporate networks integrates all departments' local area network of an organization. This organization has its own web server to manage the websites. Websites could be provided for public or as intranet or extranet. An intranet connects employees to each other to share information, for example. When employees log on to their computer at the office, the first page they are likely to see is the intranet portal homepage. It may provide links to important companies' news, important documents, tools, and other resources that the employees need to accomplish their daily tasks. An extranet is a secured website and normally supported by CMS, a content management system that makes extranet available to a company's customer, vendors, or business partner, but not to the general public. There, there are also additional components like mobile wireless, video conferencing systems, telephone networks, and wireless cell phones. And all these devices and components will be explained in the following slides.
Client-server computing is a distributed computing model in which applications, processing power, and resources are located within computers that are linked to one another through a network. These computers controlled by so-called network server computer. Network server computer sets rules of communication for network and provides every computer with an address so other computer can find it on the network. Computer in the network can be client or server computer. The client-server model describes a way to distribute tasks and services within a network. The tasks performed by applications that are divided into clients and server. The clients can request services from the server, and the server, which is hosted on another computer in the network, answers the requests with responses. Usually, a server can serve several clients at the same time. Describing a computer as a server or as a client, it depends on the role during the communication. I will give you a simple example for a client-server architecture. If you use a web browser to access on the Amazon's websites in order to give an order for item or product, your computer has here the role of a client computer that sends a request through your web browser to the server of Amazon's computer. Amazon's computer here takes the role of a server computer. At the Amazon side, web server application of Amazon process your request and sends a response to you in your web browser with a message about your order, that your order is received and currently in processing. But if Amazon application sends a request to a supplier application to order your item, in this case, the Amazon computer takes the role of a client computer, and the vendor computer takes the role of a server computer. That explains why the computer role as a client or a server is exchangeable. Please note the difference between network server and server computer that serve responses to client computers. Client-server computing has largely replaced centralized mainframe computing, in which nearly all of the processing takes place on a central large mainframe computer. Internet is the best example for client-server architecture. It is the largest implementation of client-server computing.
The flow of information between requester as a client computer and receiver as a server computer takes place in the Internet and network mediums. Requests and responses sent across the network as messages that could contain business information like requests for customer purchase order or invoice from the vendor as response. To transport the data through the network, the packet switching method is used. Packet switching is the method of dividing digital messages into several small packets of data called packets and sends the packets along different communication paths as they become available in the network. The packets then are assembled once they arrive their endpoint. In the past, before the development of packet switching technique, computer in the network used telephone circuit to communicate with other computer in the network. In circuit-switched networks, such as telephone systems, a complete point-to-point circuit is established first, and then communication can be conducted. These circuit switching techniques were expensive and wasted available communication capacities, since the circuit was maintained regardless of whether any data sent. In this figure, we see here a message sliced into three parts. We call them packets. Normally, each packet travels independently through different routes depending on the availability of the network channels at the runtime of transmission. Every packet inscribed with identification number of the message that the packet belonged to and the packet number, and finally the endpoint address which the message sent to. Obviously, the packet landed at the destination at different times, and so in different order. Based on the packet's identification numbers, the message being then reassembled into the original message. In a network, there are typically many different types of hardware and software components that need to work together to transmit information and receive information. Different components in a network communicate with each other only by adhering to a common set of rules called protocols. In the past, many diverse, proprietary, and incompatible protocols often forced business firms to purchase computing and communications equipment from just a single vendor. But today, corporate networks are increasingly using a single common worldwide standard called Transmission Control Protocol over Internet Protocol, or short TCP/IP. This graphic illustrates the 4 layers of the reference model of TCP/IP. Note that what happens when a computer A sends a message to computer B. The data that computer A creates is transferred first within the computer from the application layer to subsequent layers in sequence. This means in downstream direction. In this process, data split into packets and information is added at each layer, ultimately translating the packets into a form that can be transferred over the network interface, namely bytes and bits 0 and 1. After traveling over the Internet interface, the packets are reassembled at the recipient computer side for use by the application layer of computer B. This graphic shows the three main topology to implement in LANs. LAN stands for Local Area Network that connect computers and devices like printer in department or in another organization unit. In star topology, all devices on the network connect to a single hub, and all network traffic flow through this hub. The advantages of star topology can be seen as follows. Due to its centralized nature, the topology offers simplicity of operation. Adding or removing network nodes is easy and can be done without affecting the entire network. Because of the centralized structure, it's easy to detect faults in the network devices. Disadvantages are: network operation depends on the functioning of the central hub, since central hub failure leads to failure of the entire network. Also, the number of nodes that can be added depends on the capacity of the central hub. The setup cost is quite high. Coming now to the bus topology. In a bus topology, one station transmits signals which travel in both directions along a single transmission segment. All nodes on the network receive the same signals, and software installed on the clients enable each client to listen for messages addressed specially to it. The most advantages of bus topology are: it's easy to set up, handle, and to implement. It's best suited for small networks. It costs very less. The disadvantages are: the cable length is limited. This limits the number of network nodes that can be connected. It's suitable for networks with low traffic. Each device on the network sees all data being transmitted, thus posing a security risk. Moving now to the ring topology. A ring topology connects network components in a closed loop. Messages pass from computer to computer in only one direction around this loop. The ring topology is normally found in older LANs using talking ring networking software. Advantages: a central server is not required to manage this topology. The traffic is unidirectional and the data transmission is high speed. It's less costly than star topology. Coming now to the disadvantages. The failure of a single node in the network can cause the entire network to fail. And finally, the movement or changes made to network nodes affect the entire network's performance. The two components of the term Internet, namely inter and net, indicate that the term is about the exchange of data between computers via telecommunication networks. The Internet can be characterized as a decentralized global computer network that is formed from a large number of interconnected individual networks in which communication between the individual computers takes place on the basis of Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol, TCP/IP. Actually, no one owns the Internet, and it has no formal management. However, worldwide Internet policies are established by a number of professional organizations and government bodies, including the Internet Architecture Board, IAB, which helps to define the overall structure of the Internet, and the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, which assigns IP addresses, and also the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, which sets hypertext markup language and other programming standards for the web. Because it would be difficult for the Internet user to remember strings of 12 numbers. The domain name system, DNS, converts domain name to IP addresses. DNS server, maintaining a database containing IP addresses mapped to their corresponding domain name. To access on the computer, on the Internet, users need only to specify its domain name. DNS has hierarchical structure. At the top of DNS hierarchy is the root domain. The child domain of the root is called a top level domain, and the child domain of a top level domain is called a second level domain. We will explain more about the domain names hierarchy in the next slide. Coming now to the next problem and the solution for it. The Internet is running out of addresses. With only 4.3 billion possible IP addresses, the currently used IPv4 is no longer sufficient for the growing number of the Internet user worldwide. The new Internet Protocol, IPv6, which enable up to 346 trillion IP addresses. That is an incredible large number of 39 digits with up to 32 characters. IPv6 addresses are significantly longer than the previously used 12 digits of the IPv4 addresses. The DNS database has a tree structure. You can find information about a domain by following the pointer from the root domain through the subordinate domain's name levels. Each domain name corresponds to a node in the DNS hierarchy. The top-level domains are located directly below the root domain. There are two types: geographical, like .eg for Egypt or .de for Deutschland, Germany, or organizational, like .com or .net. A domain that is directly below the top-level domain is called a second-level domain. Let us consider the top-level domain .com as example. The second-level domain google.com is located under the top-level domain .com. Here is some services that are supported by TCP/IP reference model. If you remember, we have 4-layer application, transport, internet, and network interfaces. In the application layer, there are some protocol, and the most important one is HTTP, which is understand the data delivered from transport layer and convert it in the way that can be supported by web application and websites. So here there are some other application or protocols supported by the internet, like email protocols, chatting and instant messaging, telnet, FTP protocols, and of course World Wide Web for websites, and voice IPs to use it for calls and transportation of voices, and virtual private network VPN. It's very important to get secure channel or tunnel to get into local area network from home, for example, to use this protocol. This graphic illustrates how a virtual private network works. The rectangles A, B, C, and D represent different computers on the VPN. In a process called tunneling, packets of data are encrypted and wrapped inside IP packets. By adding this wrapper around a network message to hide its content, business firms create a private connection that travels through the public internet. This slide introduces one of two wireless technologies having a major impact on business today: radio frequency ID, short RFID. Walmart, for instance, uses RFID to manage inventory and supply chains. An RFID system consists of two devices: tags, or called also transponder, and reader devices. Tag, which is located on or in an object and contains an identifying code, and the reader for reading out this identifier. RFID transponders can be very small. The coupling is done by magnetic fields generated by the reader within a short range, or by using high-frequency radio waves. This not only to transmit data, but also to supply the tags or transponder with energy. Active tags or transponder have their own power supply to achieve greater ranges, but these are associated with higher costs. RFID support and automate many business processes, like automation of toll collection, tracking deliveries in supply chains, and in the logistic, and also in warehouse management, or to support replenishment in retail sectors like Walmart. RFID technology has two problems regarding cost and implementation. While the cost of RFID tags used to be too costly for widespread implementation, but today the cost is about 10 cents for a passive tag. So RFID is becoming more and more cost effective. Special hardware and software are needed to use RFID to filter, aggregate, and to prevent RFID data from overloading business network and system applications. Also, applications will need to be redesigned to accept massive volumes of frequently generated RFID data, and to share those data with other applications. Major enterprise software vendors, including SAP and Oracle, now offer RFID-ready versions of their supply chain management application. This slide introduces a second wireless technology that has major impact on business today: wireless sensor networks, but in the context of IoT, Internet of Things. Note that wireless sensors are linked into an interconnected network that routes the data to a computer for analysis. With the Internet of Things, IoT, objects get clear identity and can communicate with one another. With Internet of Things, application can be automated and tasks can be carried out without intervention from outside. In general, the term Internet of Things is used to connect object or machine in an industrial environment via the Internet. Devices get unique identity in the network and are equipped with electronic intelligence. This enables them to communicate over the Internet and perform tasks fully automatically. The intelligent devices are often referred to smart devices or called smart devices.
Basically, in this lecture, we will discuss the need for security to protect information systems and data. In addition, we will introduce technologies supporting secure information systems. First, we will learn the main types of threats that could harm information systems through destruction, error, and abuse, and also how to design and implement security and control measures to safeguard information systems in an organization. And finally, what are technologies and tools used today to support overall security and control information systems in business? First, we try to understand the term securities and controls. Security is always regarding design and implementation of policy, procedures, and technical measures that use to protect information systems, while control is measuring and ensuring the efficiency and compliance of security to management standards. System vulnerability and abuse, why systems are vulnerable. To understand this, we have here a list that summarizes all sources for potential threats, and it is organized in 6 categories. They are all related to information systems components and its environments. First, network and its accessibility. Then hardware, software, environment where information system components located, like fire or floods or natural catastrophes, and the way of information system usage, and finally, portable devices. Note that when a large amount of data are stored digitally on computers and servers and in databases, they are vulnerable to many more kinds of threats than when they were stored in manual form, on paper, on file cabinets, or on shelves. Whatever. When data are available over a network, there are even more vulnerabilities because of the fact that information system is not an isolated system. Rather, it's a part of an open system and it is interlinked to other parts in the system landscape, so that potential threat sources are notably increased than the case of the manual handling of business data. On the other hand, digital records are not vulnerable in ways that manual records in file cabinets are vulnerable. For instance, you really cannot tell who has accessed manual records when they are in a physical form. In databases, file access is monitored unless a hacker has found a way to read records without leaving any digital trails. This slide discusses the type of threats that large networks face, like the internet, because they are open to anyone. Note that internet is so huge that when abuses happens, they can have an enormously widespread impact on the organization. And when the internet becomes part of the corporate network, the organization's information systems are even more vulnerable to actions from outside. Till now, we have just concentrated on the vulnerabilities of information systems and its environment, and we have also discussed vulnerable areas that are presented in 6 categories: network, hardware, software, disasters, and portable devices. Now it is important for you to understand what threats are, and which means that threats use malicious software, or short malware. Malware is one of the most important dangerous threats that harm information systems and computers today. Malware is a serious problem over the past decades. Worms and viruses have caused billions of dollars of damage to corporate networks, emails, and data. Malware is generally a term of any software designed to run on a computer system without permission. That is the definition of malware. Now to the types of malwares. A virus is a program that attaches itself to legitimate software or data file. The virus spreads itself when the software is run, and also, it's a very important point, the virus may carry a payload. What is a payload? Payload is the functionality of the malware. The payload might, for example, disrupt computer operation or gather sensitive information. Or it can gain unauthorized access to computer system. A worm is a standalone program that replicates itself in order to spread across a network and other computer systems. The worm may carry a payload and normally to damage computer performance, eat computer resources like CPUs and main memory. Now to the Trojan horse. A Trojan horse or a Trojan is a software that user download or installs for a legitimate purpose without knowing that it includes malware payload, like deleting files, stealing data, or activating and spreading other malware such as viruses. We continue the discussion of types of malware on the previous slide. Note that SQL injection attacks are the largest malware threat. These attacks enable hackers access to underlying databases that support web applications, such as sale of products and services, and also e-commerce financial data or other structured information. SQL injection attacks gaining unauthorized access to websites database. The mechanism is to submit SQL statements through a web form that are then executed to select and download data. Spyware. Spyware is a malware that collects information about computer user. One form of spyware is key logging, where all information typed into the system are recorded. This slide looks at the people who commit computer crime, and it provides also various types of computer crime, like system intrusion, system damage, and cyber vandalism. Hacking. Hacking is the process of intruding computer system without authorization in order to gain access to them for good or bad purposes. Within hacking community, the term cracker is typically used to denote a hacker with criminal intention. We introduce here the most important types of computer crimes that used today by hackers. These are methods, to say tricks or traps, used for computer crimes. We begin first with the spoofing and sniffing. We define them here in simple way. Spoofing means to pretend to be someone else, while sniffing means to illegally listen into another's conversation. Sniffing motives could be getting username and password, stealing bank-related or transaction-related information, spying on emails and chat messages, identity theft. And note that all of these crimes, malware can be here used, and in different form, especially spyware. A denial of service, DOS or DOS attack, is a computer crime to disrupt normal traffic of targeted server or network by overwhelming them with a flood of internet traffic. Distributed DOS or DDoS. DDoS attacks achieve that by using several computer systems as sources of traffic attack. It's like a traffic jam blocking highway, preventing regular traffic from arriving at its destination. A DDoS attack requires a hacker to gain control of a network of online computer in order to carry out an attack. These computers of regular network member are already infected with malware without knowing of their owner or administrator. Hacker turn each computer into a bot or zombie. The hacker then has remote control over the group of bots, which is called a botnet. Once a botnet has been established by malware infection, the attacker is able to direct the machine by sending updates instructions to each bot via a method of remote control. When the IP address of the victim server is targeted by the botnet, each bot will start by sending fake requests to the targeted server, potentially causing the targeted server or network to overflow server capacity. The server cannot respond to regular requests of real user because each bot is a legitimate internet device, and separating the attack traffic from normal traffic can be very difficult. Phishing and evil twins are the most common scenarios to theft personal information. For phishing, hackers send fraudulent emails to targets appearing to be from a legitimate company, such as your bank. The emails are often rudimentary, but they use psychological concepts to attract you. The emails might claim that criminals are attempting to access your bank account, for example, in order to cause panic. And once your emotions take over, criminals offer you a simple resolution. Click a fraudulent link and you land on a fake website to verify your name, email address, date of birth, account number, and even your PIN. But of course, the entire story is fabricated, and so hackers can steal your identity and your personal information. For Evil Twin, a fraudulent wireless internet access point used to commit identity theft by recording the data traffic from unwitting users. Farming is a method of identity theft in which hackers set up a website look like a legitimate website as of a bank and redirects users who are trying to visit authentic website to the fake one to track them in order to steal passwords and other personal information. Click fraud is about clicking off ad banners without any intention of purchasing the product. Click fraud is done to make an advertising campaign appear very successful. If ads are based on pay-per-click, website owner who is publishing the ads can make undeserved profits by clicking the ads countless times. In addition, software is available that automatically clicks ads and uses different IP addresses to simulate random users. Away from firms' attacks from outside, there are also sources of threats within a company. They are the employees. Employees have access to privileged information and they can route through the systems uncontrolled with sloppy internal and security procedures. Many employees can also forget their passwords to access computer systems or allow co-workers to use them. For social engineering as a term, it's about tricking employees into revealing their passwords by pretending to be legitimate members of the company who need information. Another main source of threats is software used in information systems and network components. There is no perfect software, and most probably there is no software flawless. Bugs are coding failures and they can lead to security vulnerabilities and open network to intruder, for example, or damage data or system performance. Patches are normally used by the software vendor to repair flaws in their software. Electronic records management is essential today for responding to legal actions. Who did what, when, and where, and how as electronic evidences. Note that in a legal action, a company is obligated to respond to requests for access to information that may be used as evidence, and the company is required by law to produce those data. The cost of responding to discovery requests can be enormous if the company has trouble to assembling the required data or the data have been corrupted or destroyed. Courts impose financial and even criminal penalties for improper destruction of electronic documents. That shows how important the legal requirements for electronic records and computer forensics in order to be considered later in the controls and security planning. According to many legal requirements and laws like Sarbanes-Oxley Act in USA, for example, many organizations are forced to deliver reports about their financial status or about their proper operating and securing of information systems. An information system control is a procedure or policy that provides assurance that information systems used by an organization operate as intended and data is reliable and the organization is in compliance with laws and regulations. To improve security for companies' information systems, it is important to create a framework that supports securities. This includes establishing information systems, controls, and understanding the risk to companies' information systems. Controls used in information systems may be manual or automated. There are two main types of controls: general controls and application controls. Application controls are specific controls exact addressed to each computerized application, such as payroll or order processing. Application controls include both automated and manual procedures that ensure that only authorized data are completely and accurately processed by that application, while general controls apply to all computerized applications. Companies need to establish a security policy for protecting companies' assets, as well as another company's policies that the security policies drives, and how information systems support this. One of these policies is the Acceptable Use Policy, AUP. AUP defines privacy, user responsibility, and personal use of companies' equipment and networks, and also what is unacceptable and acceptable actions for every user and consequences for non-compliances. Authorization policies also is certified and it determines different levels of user access to information assets. Information system access management is a very important component of the control and security framework. Here, system user authorization and privileges are defined. Who can read, update, insert, or delete what kind of data? And also, what system functions are assigned to them. So, user profile gives rules for user accessing data and functions of an information system. Note that user could have different roles in an organization, and so different profiles are assigned to them. One as system administrator, and the other one, for example, as a role as sales manager. As you can see here, there are two profiles of department, personal department, one as clerk and the other one is manager. Both user are defined with location, ident identifications, and data fields and type of accesses. So read or update or read only or none, all of kind of accesses on data are already defined here.
Floods, earthquakes, or power outage are examples for disasters. A framework for security and control should have plans and activities to respond to such disasters, focusing on restoration of devices and systems as well as recovery that disrupted business operation. Here it is very important to estimate the business damage caused by disasters and also to set priority to restoration of corrupted systems and devices. Coming now to auditing perspective, NIS audit, Management Information System audit, enables a company to determine if existing security measures and controls are effective. An NIS audit is an examination of the controls governing individual information systems. The evaluation of an evidence determines if the information systems are safeguarded as planned and if information systems are maintaining data integrity and operating effectively to achieve the organization's goal and objectives. These reviews may be performed in conjunction with a financial statement audit, internal audit, or other form of agreements like service level agreement with third party. Moving now to the most important and exciting part of our lecture today, to learn how to protect the information systems by deploying technologies, software, and tools. User access management system that defines username and passwords, and also the period of time that user access is valid. It assigning user privileges according to the user profile. Based on user assessment management system, there are many technologies used for identifying and authentication of users. Password systems are traditional methods for authentication. You need just to input your username and password and you are in. That's all. There are another methods currently used in the market like token, smart cards, and biometric authentication. Tokens are physical chips used normally to get access into computer or other electronic devices or even to open doors, for example. The same is valid for smart cards. Smart cards have the shape of credit card. Many computer keyboards in companies today are equipped with slots so that once the user puts the smart card into the slots, the system identifies the user and he can access on the computer, information system, and all devices in the network like printer and telephone that are assigning to him in his user profile. Most of the authentications of tokens, and smart card devices are used in conjunction with using of additional PIN or password.
We have here the essential tool that's used to prevent intruders from accessing private networks, namely the firewalls. To create a strong firewall, an administrator must maintain internal rules identifying the people, applications, or addresses that are allowed or rejected to go through the firewalls. Firewalls can restrict but not completely prevent network penetration by the outsiders. Firewalls should be viewed as one element in overall security plan. In addition, there are a number of technology used by firewall, including static packet filtering, stateful inspection, network address translation, and application proxy filtering. They are frequently used in combination to provide firewall protection. In addition to authentication systems and the firewalls, there are also tools to prevent illegitimate intruders and software from accessing the network. We will start first with intrusion detection tool. It is to monitor hotspot on private organization networks to detect and restrict intruders, and also to examine events as they are happening to discover attacks in progress and eventually to prevent them automatically. And there are other tools like antivirus and anti-spyware software. It checks computers for presence of malware and can often eliminate it immediately. It requires continual updating from the vendor databases to discover new malware that currently spreads in the market, for example. Both intrusion detection system and antivirus software should run all the time in background of information system. So coming to all-in-one solution, Unified Threat Management System, short UTM, that supports organization to reduce costs and improve security management. Vendors have combined into a single appliance. Appliances mean hardware and software. Hardware like slots, like token, or other devices needed for for the security management. And also, it contains several tools like virtual private network, VPNs, what we already discussed before, intrusion detection systems, and web content filtering and anti-spam software. So UTM can be seen as a comprehensive security management product. Data or information are transmitted over the internet as a stream of data in form of packets, sequence of packet routing over the internet. The problem is, the weak point is that can be happen that a third party catch this data on the way from the sender to recipient. And to avoid or to solve this problem, we have the possibility to encrypt this data to be not used by third party. So we will transform text or data into text that cannot be read by intruder. And the only one can see it, that is the recipient, by using so-called protocols, transport protocols, like Secure Stocks Layer, SSL, and TLS. I'm sure when you remember when you establish new account by email server, there are some options asking you about the encryption method, what you want to use, SSL or TLS, for example. And for web application or websites that can be encrypted by using HTTP, but special one, it's a secure HTTP to encrypt websites and web application transferred over the network. The methods of encryption are mainly two methods: symmetric key encryption and public key encryption. In symmetric key encryption, the sender and receiver establish a secure internet session by creating a single encryption key and sending it to the receiver, so both the receiver and the sender share the same key. Receiver can then encode the incoming messages by using the same key. The problem here is that the key can be captured by hackers and use it to decoding the messages. Public key encryption uses two keys, one public or shared, and the other one is totally private. The keys are mathematically related, so that data encrypted with one key can be decrypted using only the other one, so that receiver has two keys, one is private and one is public, and the same for the sender, has two keys, public one and private one. Again, to send and receive messages, sender and receiver first create separate pairs of private and public keys. The public key is kept in a directory and the private key must be kept secret. So the public key is public and the private key is secret and kept by the communicator, receiver and sender. The sender encrypts the messages with the recipient's public key. On receiving the message, the recipient uses his or her private key to decrypt it. Digital certificates are tools that often used to protect online transactions and in conjunction with public key encryption to validate the identities of two parties in a transaction before data exchange. A digital certificate is mostly according to standards that describes personal characteristics of people and confirm their identity. Certification Authority (CA) is a trusted third party that validates user identities. The availability of hardware and software and keep them operating, it is very important and it takes high priority of any organization. So availability is very important, and mainly we make so-called backup strategy to copy the data daily or weekly in other place. So all the data of software are copied in tapes, for example, and we keep them away from the place where the server located, like data center or other places. So it's not just software and hardware, but also other things very important like power supply. We need plan B, so we have ever another possibility to feed our information system and system infrastructure with power all the time. And it is very important also to recover quickly. So for recovering or restoring, it's very important to make a plan in case of down of systems. So how to recover systems and in which sequence, in which priority. Okay, that's all for today. In this chapter, we will discuss all aspects of enterprise application regarding ERP system, enterprise resource planning. We call also enterprise system. And after that, we will discuss supply chain management system and customer relationship management system. And finally, challenges face enterprise application. And finally, we will discuss how enterprise application used in platform for new functional services. Enterprise system is the core of the enterprise applications and has the main function to support the internal business processes of an organization. Supporting the business process in terms of automation, coordination, and management, the processes along its flows across company's departments, so that there is no need to exchange document or messages between the employees to conduct the activity of the business process. For instance, in a sale business process, a sale department don't need to inform the warehouse about the customer items and customer address for delivery. Once the sale order created in an ERP system, the warehouse is automatically informed and can pick and pack that items and deliver them to the given delivery address in the sale order. And once the items are delivered, financial department will be informed by the system and can send an invoice to the customer. All information about the sale process or sale processes are stored and can be used for further analysis to estimate, for example, the average of execution time of a sale processes in the last period, or the cost caused by a specific sale process, and so the system can be improved in the future. The functions in an enterprise software package divided into function modules that represent function areas of different departments in an organization. Therefore, we consider an ERP system as modular structured system. An ERP system provides all possible business process scenarios that can be used in an industrial organization. These scenarios are driven from best practice solutions in the industry. To simplify the enterprise system implementation, companies use the business scenario which is built in the package's enterprise software as templates for implementing their own business processes. Customizing of the system includes selecting of business functions of different modules and mapping them to business process as well as configuration activities of hardware and software. So customizing means selecting functions of different function modules, mapping them to business process, and then configuration of activity of hardware and software. This phase can take 2 or 3 years of or more to introduce an ERP system, and it is very critical to success or fail any ERP project. This is the life cycle of an enterprise system, which is running over 3 phases, starting with the adoption decision phase. That is the decision-making phase. If an organization really need to implement an ERP system, it is required because of a business need, business partner, for example, using ERP system, and it is simplify the connection with the business partner to exchange data and information. Or the business processes are become very complicated to be handled manually. So the decision making in this phase must be evaluated, and it's very important not just to follow the trend that many organizations already implemented ERP system and we have to do the same. No, it's important that there's a need for deploy an ERP system. And the second phase is acquisition phase, selecting an ERP system, evaluate the vendors and the services provided by the vendors, and so on. And the third phase, and it is very critical one, it's to implement an ERP system by using customization activities to adapt and adopt an ERP system, and how the vendor can support the firm in this phase, or by require a support from third party, for example, consultants firm, and so on. The operating phase is followed, and in this phase we have to manage and administrate the ERP system, and it's very important to implement hot packages supported by the vendors, and also to manage authorities of different users. There are specialized and qualified administrator to hire them and to make them responsible for operating an ERP system. The evaluation phase is a phase to see the performance of an ERP system. It is matched with our expectation, it's fulfill our expectation or not. And in sometime we have to retire the ERP system, but not retire in a sense of delete it, but rather to get a new upgrade of the system or to decide for another ERP system and other vendor. But it is difficult to do that because of financial loss that can be caused in this case. While ERP system is responsible for managing and execution of activities of business processes within an organization, supply chain management software is a type of enterprise software for managing processes outside the organization boundaries regarding complicated supply chains that may include thousands of suppliers. The supply chain is a network of organizations and processes for procuring raw material, that is, the upstream supply chains include all the supplier of raw materials, half-finished material, intermediate materials needed for an organization to transform them into products. And after the production, the firm distributes them over the downstream supply chain to reach the customer. Untimely information on supply chain can cause inefficiencies. Inefficiencies in a supply chain can be materials shortages, underutilized plant capacities, excessive finished goods inventory, and high transportation costs. These are caused by untimely information. Perfect information, or nearly perfect, can result in a just-in-time strategy where inventories and buffers are reduced to nearly zero. But because of the lack of timely information, manufacturers keep highly safety stock of materials in the inventory. Storing of huge amount of materials in the warehouses increases storage cost and binds capitals for a long time and can cause negative impact on the liquidity of a company. Bullwhip effect could happen in case of getting distorted information about produced demand as it passes from one entity to the next across the supply chain, which means overestimating of demand as it actually is. Now coming to the official definition of bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect is an observed phenomena in forecast-driven distribution channels. It is just forecasting of the consumer demands. It refers to a trend of larger and larger swings in inventory in response to change in customer demand. As one looks at firms further back in the supply chain for a product, this figure shows us the problem of demand distortion in a supply chain, which increases as it moves back through the supply chain. It starts with a shift in consumer demand, which drives a response by retailers, then wholesalers, then manufacturer, then component supplier, then raw material suppliers. Supply chain management system has two functions, basically. The first one for planning the supply chain, and the other one to execute and manage running supply chains. So the activities belong to the planning part, can include model existing supply chain, demand planning, optimize sourcing, manufacturing plans, establish inventories levels, identify transportation modes, and so on. And to execute the running supply chain, there are many activities to coordinate and manage the flow of the product along the supply chain. A push model supply chain is one where expected demand is determined and pushing products to the downstream of a supply chain. For example, winter jackets get pushed to retailers as summer ends and winter season starts. Under push system, companies predict their supply chain since they know what will come and when, long before it actually arrives. This also allows them to plan production to meet their needs and gives them time to prepare a place to store the stock they receive. A pull strategy is related to the just-in-time strategy of inventory management that minimize stock of materials, and under this strategy, products delivered in the supply chain when customer demand confirm it. One example of an industry that operates under this strategy is a direct computer seller. A direct computer seller waits until they receive uh, an order to actually build a custom computer for the consumer. With a pull strategy, companies avoid the cost of inventory that may not sell. The risk is that they might not have enough inventory to meet demand if they cannot increase the production quickly enough. But technically, every supply chain strategy is hybrid between the two. Business value of supply chain management systems can be seen as follows. First of all, to match supply to demand in order to achieve uh, reduction of inventory levels and to improve delivery service in order to get customer loyalty and to speed up the time from production to the market and using assets of an organization more effectively. I think these five objectives are the most important for an organization to implement supply chain management system. Now we will introduce the third type of the enterprise application, namely the CRM system. Customer relationship management systems provides a single place to consolidate and analyze data about the customer. A true CRM integrates corporate strategy, business methodology, and technology to achieve several goals for companies that want to operate in a customer-driven environment. No business nowadays can survive without understanding its customers and having a positive relationship with them. CRM provides support for the front-end customer-facing functionality like marketing, sales, and customer services, which are usually not available in a traditional ERP systems. We do this in order to capture and integrate customer data from overall in the organization and to consolidate and analyze customer data and also to distribute customer information to various systems and customer touch points across enterprise and finally to provide single enterprise view of the customers.
Salesforce automation modules in CRM systems help sales staff increase their productivity by focusing sales efforts on the most profitable customers, those who are good candidates for sales. CRM systems provide sales prospect and contact information, product configuration capabilities, and sale code generation capabilities. Such software can provide information about a particular customer's past purchase, the history of the customer, and his behavior to help the sales personnel to make personalized recommendations for the customer. The term prospect is a qualified and interested individual who has demonstrating the willing to make a purchase decision. For customer service modules in CRM systems, provide information and tools to increase the efficiency of call centers, help desks, and the customer support staff. They have capabilities for assigning and managing customer service requests. CRM systems support direct marketing campaigns by providing capabilities for capturing prospects and customer data for providing products and services, and for scheduling also and tracking direct marketing, mailing or emailing. Marketing modules also include tools for analyzing marketing and customer data, and also to identify profitable and unprofitable customers, and also to design products and service to satisfy specific customer needs and interests, and also to identify opportunities for cross-selling. In marketing, cross-selling is a sales strategy that can be implemented at relatively low cost. Here, customers who have already purchased a product or service should be motivated to purchase additional product or service. There are two main function areas of CRM software: operational and analytical CRM. The operational functions support automation of CRM processes, like supporting sales staff during customer meeting to deliver them with the needed information for the sale process, or to conduct customer service and marketing automation. Analytical CRM has the functionalities to analyze customer data produced by operational CRM. Customer data are stored in extra database called data warehouse
for analyzing historical customer data. Business value of CRM, that is a list of all objectives that should be achieved when an organization implements a CRM system. First, to increase customer satisfaction, and through this achieve also customer loyalty, to reduce direct marketing costs, to make marketing more efficient, to reach lower costs for customer acquisition and retention, and also to increase sale revenue, and reduce also churn rate of the customer who stop using or purchasing products or service from a company. We do this by trying to retain them, by providing offers, attractive offers with good prices and product with high quality, for example.